Thanks for joining us. I can see you on the screen behind me. So yeah, guys, Sarah Gervais from the Australian Cinematographer, one of the biggest trade magazines out there dealing with the art of cinematography. Thank you so much for joining us and finding time in your evening from the far away Australia. And I suppose Australian cinematographer doesn't really need an introduction in a room like this. But I suppose if you could tell us kind of what is like the mission statement, what is it that you guys do, and what is it that you hope to bring to your readers?
I guess Australian Cinematographer magazine is a platform for cinematographers to share, to learn, and I guess most importantly to celebrate their work and the art of cinematography. Oftentimes at events like these, you talk to other cinematographers and they go, they don't really get
I'm sure Sarah will come back. She's absolutely lovely. We'll give her a couple more minutes. I mean, you guys don't take more than I do because it happens all the time, doesn't it? There she is. Hello again.
Hi.
Sorry. No worries whatsoever. Yeah, you were telling us what happens when cinematographers meet at an event like this.
Oftentimes on set, usually don't get to talk to other cinematographers, so there's really, a great joy in being able to have those discussions. But don't get to happen in the day-to-day. So I guess the magazine is kind of also a place for those kind of conversations to happen where they might not otherwise be able to.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of almost like social media, but with a stamp of approval that you get to share what you've done, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And to flip the script, what do you think is the kind of the benefit for the cinematographer or for an artisan to be covered by you? What do they get out of it?
I guess like you said, it's kind of like social media. Like this industry is really all about people. And so that anything you can do to give people a sense of who you are and the kind of work you're doing is always going to be a good thing. So, a lot of people read the magazine because they're actually scouting for talent, or, might be a director or a producer, and if they see that, if you've done something that really kind of resonates with them, then, that's one avenue for kind of connecting with other people. So, I guess it's all about kind of telling other people who you are and kind of what you're interested in.
Yeah.
And capable of.
Put yourself out there. So, in that sense, I wonder if, in your kind of view, and with the stories that you've been covering so far and the people you've worked so far, would you say that there's like a particular stage where publicity is the most important when you're building your career?
I'd say really kind of any stage is a good stage. It's always good if you're proud of what you're doing and can speak confidently about your work. That's always kind of a good time to reach out. But really, confidence is a skill, and you only kind of get that skill by practicing. So, starting to start is really, anytime's a good time.
Well, they say no such thing as bad press. But I can argue that. But definitely, most of the press is good. And kind of, so from that angle, obviously, I wonder if, so is it, can you tell us, is it the cinematographers you cover, or do you also look at kind of, the camera crew is such a big department. You also look at like the most difficult focus pulls in action films, or like custom-made rigs to shoot something crazy, stuff like that.
Yeah, in a perfect world, we cover, if the story comes to us and it's, adjacent to cinematography, then we're always happy to cover it. We had an article in the last issue about Jason Ewart, who's an Australian Steadicam operator who worked on the recent James Bond film. Anything kind of, that boosts the artist cinematography, we're really keen to write about.
Yeah, and to kind of make this a bit broader maybe, so what do you look for in a story? How do you decide that this is what I'm putting in my next issue?
Anyone who's kind of, keen to tell a story, yeah, it's a pretty broad spectrum. I think, someone who is a great collaborator or has done something unique in their project, there's a lot of reasons we might publish something. It's really kind of, any kind of enthusiasm is appreciated.
Sure. And so from the other side of that coin, how do you find those stories? How do you find us?
Sometimes it's purely through knowing the subject is being shot and reaching out directly, but oftentimes, actually most of the time it's through a PR rep or that cinematographer will reach out and tell us about something that's happening, or it can be direct, but oftentimes it's through somebody agent.
And are you open to the other side of this, of people reaching out to you directly?
Absolutely, yeah, always been. There's a lot of people out there, so it's a good way to get to the top of the pile is to reach out directly.
Very good. I'm sure you're going to be getting a lot of emails after the stuff today. Yeah, but you can kind of start on. But you mentioned, obviously, I know you because we've kind of exchanged emails in the past, and I think it might be very interesting for people in the audience here to hear what it's like from your perspective, working with us, the PR reps. Do we help you? What do we do for you? And what's your take on us?
Yeah, it's it's a pretty crucial relationship. We have the common goal of celebrating cinematographers, so it's really I don't think the magazine would exist without you guys. It's mutually beneficial. So what was the question? Sorry.
Just about the kind of collaboration of the collaboration between the magazine and the PR rep. What's your take on it, and how does it go from your side, maybe? What's the process from your side of things?
So usually I will often get emails saying, so and so has shot this thing, this project. Would you like to talk to them? And I'll say yes, please. And then we'll sit down and have a chat over the phone. And then I'll write an article and that'll go back and forth between me and the TPs to make sure that it's saying the right things and making any changes or making sure that we're telling the best story we can about that person's experience.
Guys, do you have any questions to Sarah while we have her? While she's still awake in Australia? There's a question in the back.
I wanted to ask what, on the other side, what do you get out of it? Because now you talk a lot about what you get out of it, and what's the interest of your side to do the best work or to push the talents to discover it? What do you get out of the deal?
Hard hitting. Quite frankly, I get to go to festivals. It's pretty great. It's a great job to do. It's also so fun. Also, I'm sure Sarah will agree that we all love films, but we're not all as technically inclined to figure out what, chip size I need the camera and whatever. So this is my way. This is how I sneak into the industry.
So you're looking for long-lasting relationships or partnerships?
From that, yes, absolutely we do. Absolutely we do. I can't even tell how long we've been working for Australian cinematographer. But I think it's not really that we're looking for relationships. We need to build them. This is where we come in. We are the people who build that long-lasting relationship, and it kind of runs on the basis of trust, I suppose, in a sense. And we'll get to more of that later. But in a sense, what we do, because as Sarah said, she's open to hear from people directly, and I would definitely encourage you to give it a go. But where the PR step in, aside from other things we'll discuss today, is that becomes the little seal of pre-approval. This is somebody that we've kind of decided to work with and who we nurture and who we support throughout their career. Apologies. And so that comes with the idea that we're bringing Sarah Jo a client that is worth their time, the team's work and so on. So there's also a level of accountability that we can offer on which the whole balance is based on. Would you agree, Sarah Jo?
Yeah, totally. it's definitely a big tick of approval when you guys come to meet with somebody. It just means that, you know, that work of kind of figuring out is kind of done. It just makes things a lot more streamlined.
Yeah, the streamlining is a huge part. I have a couple of funky slides about that, but there is so much admin that we kind of glossed over at the moment that comes into it. The sourcing of BTS and stills from the studio that can accompany the interview, the kind of clearance of all sorts of information. And it's not the most fun thing to kind of do, so this is where we step in and we cover that. Whilst you guys do your best work and then just hop on a call that we've all set up for you and you speak to Sarah Jo and you move on to your next project. So that streamlining is basically really the crux of what we do here. Yeah, anything else for Sarah Jo before we go? Shy crowd, that's okay. Sarah, one last question from me. What would be your tip for kind of the cinematographers in the room? What's your best advice you can give them to for the rest of their career? Really, go on. Good question.
Yeah, I mean, the first biggest piece of advice is probably to get out there and shoot. But if you're already kind of in that stage where you're shooting consistently, I'd say in this day and age, where things are so competitive, it's really important to be vocal about who you are and let people know who you are. It's a hard career, and keeping it to yourself isn't going to do you any favours. And people are really looking for the people that they harmonise with, the people they can spend 50 hours a week on set with. So I'd say just being really really loud about who you are is kind of the best piece of advice I could give.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you so much. Unless there's anything else? Yeah? No? Yes? Okay, round of applause for Sarah. Thank you so much. We're going to let you go. I'm sure you have anything to add. I'm sure I'll catch you soon enough as well. Speak soon. Oh, we know. So now back to our moments. Which you guys shouldn't see, so it's secret. Sarah, there we go. Yes, quite. That's kind of a big chunk of what we do. So to sum up, we work with you, we look at different aspects of your work, and we kind of pitch that story to different magazines and various other outlets, and organize the kind of the coverage for you to get the word out there. Before this festival, I've also asked similar questions to the lovely Zoe Matter from British Cinematographer. She couldn't join us here today, but she also wanted to kind of connect with you guys. Most of her answers were kind of in the same vein, so I don't think we need to go through copious text on screen, but there's a few things that I thought might be worth sharing. First and foremost, the fact that Zoe is, no, hold on. No, where is that slide? There we go. Zoe's also very much open to hearing from you guys directly. The British Cinematographer now has a new section called New Wave, in which they cover the kind of more up-and-coming industry creators. So here's her email on screen. That's the first little piece of kind of freebie news you're gonna get today. There will be more, so keep your notebooks open. And yeah, what Zoe said when I asked her about what she looks for in a story, it's a fairly broad answer and similar to Sarah's, but she mentioned looking for new techniques being used and innovative and inventive thinking and standout visual styles. So whenever you feel you've done something, that maybe you haven't seen before, definitely reach out to Zoe. And her final parting advice as well, quite similarly, was not to be afraid to shout out about work and be proud of everything you achieve. And yeah, to kind of put this into action and show you more real life examples of what we actually do, I wonder how many people in this room, or if anyone, watched the film 7500 or 7500 or 7500, depending where you've seen it.
Is it film about the pilot?
Yes, it is the film about the pilot.
It was shot in Germany, in MMC studios, yeah?
Yes, it was. So, but have you seen it?
No, but I knew the production company.
Excellent. Yeah, quite. It was shot in Germany, but it was essentially a Hollywood film with Joseph Gordon-Levitt taking the role of a pilot of an airplane that's being kidnapped. And vast majority of the action was happening inside the cockpit. You have not heard about the film because it hasn't exactly done amazingly well, unfortunately, in terms of kind of the critical approach and how the story and the performances were delivered. But what we've seen in the film was this fantastic, very young German DP, Sebastian Thaler, who, as you can see here, had to figure out how to shoot in a cockpit where to even take a BTS still, they had to kind of go fisheye because it was so tight. And he had to look at ways of getting in there, shooting kind of interesting stuff, good enough stuff, but also not being in the way of the actors, of their movement, not setting up lights that they're going to bang into because they had so little space to work with. And that was something quite new and interesting that, we at Ecoms haven't seen before happen exactly. There's been other films in confined spaces, but they usually, build different sets and actually broke away some walls so they were able to move around a bit more. Here, no worries at all. Here, the only way to kind of make the cabin realistic enough, also within the budget, was not a massive production, was to actually shoot in a defunct airplane. So there was no removing walls. We had to work with a tiny, tiny space. So whilst the film hasn't kind of traveled far, we really wanted to shine a light on Sebastian's work and technical achievement that it was on his part. So that was kind of the angle we've pitched to various outlets. You can see here interviews with Kunziwire and Variety, who are kind of the two giants amongst trades. Trades being the magazines that cover what happens in the industry, as well as a bunch of kind of other different. This is just a few titles. We've had a few more, but I wanted to give you a sense of the variety of people we speak with. And as well, we've kind of managed to successfully pitch Sebastian to a variety of podcasts. Some of them you may know, like No Film School or The Wandering P. It was before Teen Dickens, so we hadn't had a chance to try. The Cutting Room, even kind of radio shows. So whilst the film hasn't maybe been the brightest spot on Sebastian's CV, which I mean with kind of no offense to any of the makers, just sometimes it happens, good films go under the radar. So the film itself hasn't kind of done much for him, but this kind of coverage has established him as a technically skilled young talent in Germany and kind of moved him on from shooting mainly for TV into feature films, which we're so excited to see. Similarly, here's an Australian feature documentary, Gravel Road, which kind of looks at the most remote rock bands in the world, which is set up kind of in the Australian outback, and the band consists of native Australians. It started as a very small passion project, very small budget, a bunch of guys getting in a van, driving out hours and hours into the most remote part of Australia and just filming there. As it happens, my boss Meredith, who runs Manual Bates Communications, she's Australian herself and is very much involved or kind of cares deeply about bringing such stories to the screen. So whilst the project was very small and kind of, I think we've been there for over a year now, and it was very humble beginnings trying to figure out what to do, we really wanted to give voice to the story. So as you can see, a year in, we've kind of managed to broker a relationship with Festival Formula, who deserve a shout out here. They're a company that specializes in creating festival strategies for your films, and they're fantastic. And they've kind of helped us figure out how to bring this film to the festival screens to begin with. And as you can see, the film actually won Best Documentary at Poppy Jasper in the US, which is quite a big deal. We've had some other selections, they've just been in Phoenix. This weekend they'll be playing at SweeneyFest Oz, which is one of the big Australian festivals. The band will perform, and pretty much as we speak, Meredith is like in this kind of old rusty van, driving with the band from their location to Sydney to have them perform. So it's quite exciting. We've recently also been invited. The film was invited to Hawaii Film Festival and Byron Bay Film Festival, meaning it's been kind of scouted out from other festivals rather than having to apply, which is always a nice little seal of approval. And while this all was happening, this kind of festival interest allowed us to help and contact Australian distributors. And very recently we've secured one for the film, kind of brokered the deal between the filmmakers and the distributor. So this is also the kind of stuff we do. All we want is for your work to be talked about, and sort of we do whatever it takes to bring it there. But these are kind of all humble beginnings, and this is just the very kind of first steps of what we do. This guy probably needs no introduction, just to do the dues. Greg Fraser, ACACS, looking very swanky in this headshot. Greg has been with us for so many years, and he's the kind of perfect case study of the fact that building sort of brand, whatever you want this brand to be, but building especially, you know, in the below the line crew members rather than directors and actors, this is a marathon, not a sprint. It wouldn't make much sense for me to kind of go through all the different coverage we've gotten over the years. I imagine you've all read some of it as well over time. But here he's looking also very swab on the set of Dune, which I imagine you guys have heard of. And you know, this is kind of for us, I think, to talk a little bit more about the variety of stuff we've covered for Dune. I think is also a nice postcard from publicity. Greg's first Academy Awards nomination was 6 years before Dune, and that was the big kick saying, okay, this guy's got the chops. Now we need to do everything we can to give him a chance. Obviously, I'm not saying, you know, the work comes first. It's the work that comes first, but equally, you know, Academy Awards are voted on by people. People have their subjective opinions, and what we want to do is to be able to give them all the information that is out there to formed and informed and educated opinion about you and your work. So again, the push for the Oscar campaign for Dune was such a kind of multi-layered and intense experience. My colleague RJ, who was running it, slept for 4 days straight. The second Blake got his Oscar, she took a picture with it, went home, slept. It was a gargantuan effort, and amongst various pitches to different magazines, to different TV stations, interviews on podcasts and all of that. We've also worked on something quite different and quite innovative for us as well. You see, during the filming of Dune, Greg kept taking sort of BTS or just kind of personal pictures on I think it was 35 mil, but stills. That he then kind of also played with exposure on and so on. Meanwhile, Josh Brolin, who was also in the film, that's where I'm getting it. Yes, Josh Brolin was writing poetry inspired by his experiences on set. And that was put together into a book that there's very few copies in the world. It's kind of encrusted with gold, and if you want to touch it, you need to do it through white gloves and stuff like that. Somebody out there put money into it. And I mean, rightly so, the images are quite beautiful. And what we've managed to do is organize and it was a launch of the book that happened during the Camera Image Film Festival in Poland, and it was accompanied by an exhibition of some of the photos from the book. We created it as a kind of very small, intimate event during the festival. That was kind of the opening of the gallery. The images were later on left on display for everybody else to watch it. But what happened is that because it was, the hot ticket, the kind of exclusive Dune event, strictly so on. We've had a variety of high-profile guests of the festival come along and get a chance. We've had a chat set up between Danny, we met here, Greg Fraser, and Josh Brolin, where they kind of talked about their process during the film. They talked about the book, but obviously that book is kind of a one way of summarizing what they went through on set. And so a lot of people who are members of various different organizations and vote for the awards those organizations give had a chance to get a deeper insight into what kind of Greg did for the project, had the chance to speak to him face to face rather than just read about it in a magazine. And I think it's safe to say it was one of the kind of key components of Greg's Oscar campaign that I think worked very well. And on that note as well, we need to give credit to Danny. He's been a huge support to Greg throughout the whole kind of endeavor. He's traveled festivals with him. He came to Camera Image, which is cinematography focused rather than all the other stuff. And he always sang him praises and spoke a lot about him. And I think, again, that was one of the key contributions, which just shows word of mouth. And the more people talk about you and the better things they say, the more the other people will remember that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was one of our kind of huge success stories. And also an example of the different avenues we explore rather than just sticking to calling magazines and saying, hey, this guy did the film. So again, to kind of give you a broader picture, here is some recent coverage for cinematographer Natalie Kingston, who shot all of the episodes for the recently released Apple TV Plus Prime series Blackbird. If you haven't seen it, I genuinely kind of, from me personally, recommend it. Natalie has done a lot of research into the kind of, it's set inside a prison. And Natalie has been looking at the way the visuals of prison are also kind of a set design. She's found this photo essay from the 60s from a stills photographer who photographed how pastel the prisons of kind of 1960s were, because it was believed that these pastel colors will kind of keep the prisoners calm and happier. And it gave this quite a unique look. It's kind of it balances the two sides of kind of the aggression and the calmness of it in a visual way. In my personal opinion, nobody paid me to say this. But yes, so this is the kind of stuff we've also done with Natalie. Just run around the screen. We've kind of worked with Apple TV Plus to do a funky campaign on their social media, showcasing both stills from Natalie's work, but also some BTS showing her work, because it's such a quick way to share information. We've spoken with Panavision, and they've kind of done a breakdown of some of her work for the series with her on their website. Similarly, we've pitched Natalie to the Emmys magazine, so it's not quite the same as being nominated for an Emmy, but it is the kind of stamp of approval of the organization. So we've managed to kind of get one of the journalists to speak with Natalie and write a piece about her, bringing the inside of the project straight to the Emmy voters, who kind of all get this, in their inbox once a month. We've done podcasts galore really, and one of my favorite things we've done is we've successfully pitched Natalie to be a jury member for the BAFTA Student Awards. And firstly, she just had great fun. It's a nice night with open bar, but also it kind of started a relationship between Natalie and BAFTA in the US. And in a couple of weeks, she'll be going to one of their kind of members events, even though she's not technically a member, but it brokered the relationship, it started the conversation, and that's exactly what we're here for. Some other examples are obviously masterclasses. Here's Elon Papa Michael during a masterclass at 2020 Camera Image, which was held online. So he was able to tune in from his castle in Georgia, where he lives. And this is the kind of stuff we do. And again, it's another form of allowing you to share more light on your own work, give highlights, and make it known that this is what you've done. 1 year later, Camera Image 2021, one of our clients called Tilly, who's a music video director, with whom we're working on building up the kind of the director brand that also will allow him to work in feature films. And Jakob from Lightbridge. Lightbridge is not our client as such, but we do often help them with kind of communication and publicity for specific events. And this is just kind of just a random photo of them chatting. But the point is that we're very happy to be the connecting link. And whether we're at the same festival or you know of you guys going somewhere to the same event, putting you in touch. Is what we do. Quite specifically, it's a huge part of what we do. Here is Arjun, who I mentioned before, with Greg during his Oscar campaign. One thing we do is we often accompany you to the red carpet, because admittedly, you know, cinematographers are not the most recognized faces on red carpets most of the time. So the journalists are not as excited. Well, the journalists just don't know who you are. So what we do is we kind of go probably like 10 steps ahead of you with a little card and say, oh, hey, this is Greg, he's great, you want to speak to Greg? And we kind of drum up the interviews for you. And again, this is a huge part of what gets the interest. Similarly, I mentioned Nathan going to the BAFTA event, and one of my colleagues will be there with her to help them kind of break the ice, start a conversation. There will be quite a few very exciting directors in there that I can't share the names of. And, you know, trust me, I'm terrified standing here. So I know also how difficult it may be to kind of try and come up and speak to somebody out of nowhere and try to sell yourself, saying, you know, I want to work with you. Can you get that done? But this is where we step in, kind of in a wingman way. And we, you know, one of my colleagues will probably go up to one of the directors Natalie's interested in and just say, you know, she's here. This is what she's done. She was hoping to speak with you, and do you have time? So this is what we do. We are the icebreakers and the wingmen and wingwomen, and we're very happy to do it. Any questions at this stage? Cool. So yes, I mentioned before the amount of admin involved in setting all of that up and sorting out, you know, recently figuring out the COVID restrictions everywhere, and do you have all the documentation, and working out different time zones if we're in Macedonia and you're in Australia and the journalist is in the US and whatnot. There's a lot of admin. And when I was trying to come up with a slide that represents that, I took a look at the stock footage online, and all of them were so good I couldn't pick just one. So here is a curated selection of too much admin stock photos for you. The more I think about it, the more I think that the guy with the post-it on his forehead is my favorite. But yeah, it is overwhelming, and I'm not saying this to complain, but the point is, if you were to do it yourself, because as we've established, you are very much invited to, and you can reach out to the various editors, it's a lot of time. It's basically a full-time job. It is my full-time job. So the idea is that we step in and handle all of that to let you focus just on doing your best work, and not getting caught up in all of that. So my next slide was going to be about, you're probably wondering, you know, if now is the right time. So again, I turned to stock footage, and this time I had a very clear winner. This guy is thinking, he's wondering, you know, what is kind of the way forward? Is now the right time? How do I know that this is the moment where I could kind of look into getting a publicist for myself? And sort of to tune in with what Sarah Jo said before, there is no right or wrong answer. It would never hurt you to get a publicist on board. Realistically, I would probably say that it's kind of about how much, well, quite frankly, it's about whether it's worth paying the money and whether kind of your work is at that level that we can actually help and elevate it, or maybe if you need a few more kind of productions to build a stronger profile. Because what we do as well often is look at your kind of career so far at large and pitch coverage for the entire profile of you as a cinematographer rather than just the most recent project, especially if you've been doing something for quite a long time and you may start feeling pigeonholed to, you know, art house cinema or romantic comedies or whatever. We could try and create, you know, get one of the magazines to create a profile piece on you, looking at what you've achieved so far within that world and kind of highlighting all the skills you have and can offer to another production. And kind of in some more official words from my colleagues, we do two things. We have our roster service, which means that we're kind of on a monthly fee with you, and we work with you on everything you do. But we can also offer kind of project-based consultancies. So if you think you're at that stage where publicity can actually help you reach another step, definitely just reach out to us and we can have a conversation. Or if you're thinking about one specific project that you want to give that extra push, the right time to reach out to us is the second the kind of ink dries on your contract. Because as mentioned before, there is so many things to kind of get working on, getting that BTS, speaking with the studios, negotiating a budget that they can kind of send me to the festivals where the film goes there, stuff like that. It all it happens the second you start working on the film. Once you've shot it, we can definitely still help you and you can definitely still reach out to us. But to kind of maximize what you get out of the collaboration with us, reach out to us as soon as you can. So I offered you some kind of insider tips. Here they come. Here's another great stock footage piece. I've had a really good time with the internet. And yeah, the key element really always and forever is a good website. The first thing people will do is that they will Google you. So here are a few examples of our clients that I think are pretty great, and I should be able to actually show them to you if I go here. Yeah, probably my favorite is James. It's kind of very easy to navigate, very clear. It has a few little neat tricks, like obviously you can see that my cursor is here now, but if I move it towards, we suddenly go into color. It's something she maintains throughout the page, which kind of I think also links with Ellen's talk the other day and about how kind of movement and change actually catches your eye and interests you. So this little trick of just something changing on screen very subtly actually kind of engages you more with the content. And she has the classic, little tiles from her previous work, which again use the same trick of becoming colorful when you point at them. There is kind of an about section, and little descriptions for each of the projects, contact section, all of that, all kind of easy, clean, and I think one of the key elements is that it's all big. Rather than having 1 million tiles in one row to show how much you've done, actually give your work the space to show itself. But yes, Justine is a costume designer, so maybe she can afford to select some more stills, but here's Charlie Sarov's website. He's a cinematographer. And again, kind of a very classic take of just having huge frame on screen. Obviously, he's decided to put a version of a show reel on it. And then once you kind of click on a button, you get into the website. But I think this is also very effective. Rather than kind of different menus and things to choose on, the second somebody Googles you, what they get is your work. And lastly, Jamie Ranta is a music video producer. And again, kind of very classic, very simple, big tiles, easy kind of short menu to choose where you want to go from. And it's just so simple. This is what she does. This is Jamie, this is the music videos she's done. I think simplicity is key in this case. Moving on to everybody's favorite, hold on, from the next slide. There we go. Moving on to, not quite yet. One of the key things to include on your website, apart from these big, beautiful images, is a little section about yourself, a little bio. And now, these are kind of proper insider tips and tricks. They come from various actual studies and research into kind of communication and understanding of written text. So for your bio, you want your opening sentence to be 29 words or less. If it's any longer, people lose interest. Kind of majority of people will kind of already think it's too much of a read. I've come here to see this guy's portfolio. Why is he wasting my time? So that is one of the kind of key rules that we all abide by when we write the bios for our clients. Second one, and again kind of scientifically tested, is to keep the text justified to the left, so that on the right-hand margin, everything is kind of different shapes rather than fully unionized and justified, and that makes it easier to keep track for your eye, to keep track of a longer text and kind of know where it is in the text, so it can come back to the word it's reading. And lastly, we always kind of start with the most recent achievements rather than born and raised in, and then backtrack. So we do it kind of that way around, and that is simply to kind of highlight how relevant you are, that you're working now, that you've been doing things, that you're in touch with everything, and then we can kind of go back to the roots. So that's like years of research that I gave you in one slide. And social media, I know not everybody is a fan of, but they are kind of one of the quickest way of showcasing your work to people and to potential collaborators in the future. The same way everybody will Google you, everybody will look you up on Instagram as well. So kind of few tips and tricks from one of my colleagues, Joey. Joey is a whiz. Joey knows everything about social media. I don't even go near it. But one of the things she wanted you to know is to kind of, the key thing is consistency, rather than kind of big dumps of photos when you've just finished the project. If you maybe kind of space it out and keep posting content consistently, means that you will keep reappearing on feeds and you will stay relevant. And that in order to kind of facilitate that, it might be easier to set yourself a little schedule and figure out, what days of the week you're posting or how often. And unfortunately, it is a little bit of a chore, but it is effective. One of the key things that Joey always talks about is engaging with your audience. So kind of responding to comments or liking somebody else's post or whatever. It may feel a little bit contrived, but same like as in a conversation, same as at the BAFTA party. If you don't actually speak to anybody, just the fact that you were in the same room won't actually take you anywhere. Be genuine. I think that's especially tricky on social media, but also especially valuable. Keep your own professional and personal social media separate. I shan't go into any stories, but please just do it. And yeah, there's kind of a little QR code for you guys if you want to scan it, and it takes you to a website that talks all about social media in a way that I could never wrap my head around. And kind of, I hope that this is quite a comprehensive summary of what we can offer you as publicists, but also of what you can do as your own publicist at the interim. There are a few kind of parting wisdoms to share with you guys. PTS and kind of still grabs and getting clearance for them from the studio is so key. When you reach out to British cinematographer and Zoe is happy to speak with you about your latest achievement, she will need some visuals to accompany the article. And the last thing you want to do is to only speak to the studio then. And the studios are busy, they take time, so they may delay the publication, or it may be that the magazine says, sorry, we can't push to the next issue, we don't have any space. Invest in good headshots, and I mean, you guys are cinematographers, so you can just take them for each other and really do it. It changes so much whether the kind of little picture of you next to your name on Variety website is a selfie or something a bit more serious. And to paraphrase former First Lady, be bold, guys. Just go for it and be big. That's kind of it from me. Obviously, if there's any questions, give us a shout here or somewhere in a bar. Yeah, that's that.
Wonderful.
May I ask you?
Of course.
So you present now some clients of you. What's the name, the custom designer?
Justin Seymour.
So we saw your website and we saw the button, you and another agency. So how you separate your...
Quite. So I think we mentioned that
And
initially.
I'm a film critic, so when I go to a festival, I have contact to the the PR companies representing a film, so they focus on the film which is presented on a festival. You, as I understood, focusing on the person.
Yes.
The photographer, the designer, the video producer, whatever. So you can separate, because if you make a PR campaign with Fraser, for example, and you make it at the same time also for the film, right? For you.
Well,
How you separate?
I don't think we separate, we collaborate. So yes, certain studios will invest in PR campaigns, not all. I think for indie films, the individual kind of publicists are so key. For bigger stuff, we work with the studios. The unfortunate truth is that, for them, their priority is their A-list cast and their director. So we're there making sure that they also include you, and yes, like you say, kind of sometimes we end up promoting the film, and that's just fine. We're not kind of bitter about it. Obviously, the film is good. We want it to get publicity. But the key kind of factor here is that the studio is focused just on the PR for this one campaign. Whether we look at this as a next installment in your overall brand building. So, for example, sometimes they may want to, highlight just one particular part of what you've done for the production, but will actually connect with something you've done before. And kind of pitch a profile of a cinematographer who's kind of been, forging a way of filming with actually, here's an example. Giles Tompkins, he loves grain, he shoots on 35 all the time, and sometimes the production doesn't want to pay for it, so he's the one figuring out how to use 35mm kind of efficiently and within the budget, and he's an absolute master of it. Whereas the last film he's done was a Montana story, and it wasn't one of the smaller films, so there wasn't as much publicity for the publicity that was out there for it was mainly kind of focused on the story and capturing the emotion, which is all very important. But we've actually focused on, especially now when 35 is kind of returning and more is showing film, we've pitched Giles as the absolute master, and he's been doing talks and stuff, highlighting his career so far, and also building a profile of somebody to be trusted and to be kind of somebody to turn to when you want to put on film, rather than a guy who shot a very set film very well. Not to kind of simplify things, but that was the main coverage, and we looked at the different angle of it.
So there is a need also, for example, this custom designer. She needs you, she thinks she needs you, and at the same time she thinks she needs the other agency to cover the publicity.
Oh no, the other agency was her agent, her talent agent. So they look at securing the jobs, yeah. And we collaborate with agents, depending sort of on the level you are, but sometimes we actually get involved in negotiating contracts, and like I mentioned, making sure that it says in the contract that you will be flown out for the premiere, or that there will be kind of publicity budget assigned to your role, stuff like that. So we collaborate with agents quite a lot and just kind of focus on the stuff that maybe isn't their personal priority.
How many clients do you have?
Too many, I don't see. But I would say we're probably currently around 50. Kind of like, as we mentioned, there is that level of accountability for us. We do, I don't want to use the word stamp of approval, because again, it all boils down to your work. But on the other side of our collaboration with you is our collaboration with the outlets. So we try to be kind of boutique enough, first of all, to give you the focus you deserve, but also to, build a brand of our own, the sort of people we represent, yeah.
I would like to hear some cinematographers.
As would I, but they've been so shy all day.
If there is something interesting for you.
I feel really involved in this business and communications. And it's not it's part of my generation, so I don't know if probably I should be more involved in that.
Well, let's grab a coffee and chat.
I mean it without,
Well, but that's the thing, and rightly so. You guys have so much going on. You don't sit there thinking about your Instagram posts, and nor should you. And this is kind of where we come in. This is what we do. That's quite simple.
Use Instagram. Use social.
They're quite elaborate.
Do you focus on any kind of area or market? So,
As an agency, we're pretty much global. Our headquarters are in LA and Melbourne, and yeah, I cover the kind of middle time zones. So I live in London, and I kind of run the European office. But yeah, we look at everything, and especially with certain projects. Admittedly, we probably don't have as many contacts in like Middle East and Africa. But there's been projects that were involved in the region and kind of with secured coverage there as well. So yeah, the world is your oyster. Absolutely. I think we had the subtle signal with the lights.
No, it's not a signal because it was too dark. I put the lights on.
Oh, the next question, come on. Yeah.
In terms of communication, you're present and all that. Maybe I have a question or comment. Say, well, in the past, the media was in a different way interested. I would say that most of the media that was chasing everyone that is sound and that has something to say in a way. But probably the media now just shifted in a different way. So maybe what's your comment on that? Because I think that now they're focusing more on what's presented to them. The press releases so.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, and it's very much on the money. I think that as with the industry we're in, and as with many other industries, for the longest time there's been a certain type of person who gets the job or who gets the publicity and so on. And now with the kind of everything growing and on the internet, anybody can have a website and be a magazine and so on. There is much more space for this becoming a much more sort of democratic sport, and this is definitely where we fit in. We have a mix within our clients, and yes, of course, we work with big people, and they're big for a reason because they're good. But we also, like Gravel Road was a passion project that we believed in and wanted to give it that push and help it get a voice. So I think we're now probably in like a sort of early stages of the media coverage becoming truly representative of the variety of creatives that are out there, and being kind of the force that pushes us forward is definitely something that we focus on. And I'm so sorry, I don't speak this much usually. That's a lie, I speak a lot. Yeah, even our team is kind of fairly diverse and spread around the world, and so are our clients, and we're all about that. Absolutely.
I got curious about the point of don't mix personal life and professional. I mean, I'm mentioning this because when I'm using social media or looking for artists that I like, what engages me the most is when I say something personal, in the sense of like, I don't know, to see the essence of the person, not only the work. I just got curious and wanted to ask.
Yeah, totally. So there was another point talking about being genuine, and I think that's, as you mentioned, that's what you engaged, and that is obviously true. And being honest and open, and kind of vulnerable in a way is definitely something that catches us because it's something we can identify with and engage with. What I think more is, the selfies and the 3 a.m. footage that maybe doesn't represent you as well as thought out opinion and honest share. So yeah, a variety of people would just sort of have 2 different accounts, one for the official stuff, one for their kind of the photos of their meals that their friends, personal friends can like, or their dogs or their cats. And this is not in any way to sort of social media shame anyone. It's just about the fact that a huge part of what we do is curate the image, and carrying that curation forward into your personal communication, I think, makes the brand more complete. Well, let's move it to the bar, guys. Come on. Thank you so much for coming.